The Eiffel Tower, from controversy to icon. Once upon a time, in the heart of Paris, a tower rose that would become one of the most recognizable landmarks in the world. The Eiffel Tower, now a symbol of French pride and architectural beauty, had a much more complicated beginning. This is the story of how it came to be, and how it went from being disliked and debated to beloved and admired. The story of the Eiffel Tower begins in the late 19th century, at a time when France was preparing to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the French Revolution. To mark the occasion, Paris would host the Exposition Universelle, a world's fair in 1889 that would showcase art, industry, science, and progress. The French government announced a competition. They were looking for a striking monument that could be built as the centerpiece of the exposition. The structure had to be grand, ambitious, and modern, something that had never been seen before. Among the many proposals submitted, one stood out. It came from a civil engineer named Gustave Eiffel, whose company specialized in iron structures. Eiffel and his team, including engineers Maurice Koechlin and Émile Noguier, proposed a gigantic iron tower 300 meters high. It would be the tallest man-made structure in the world. At first, the idea seemed impossible. A 300-meter tower made entirely of iron? People had never seen anything like it. But Eiffel was confident. He believed that iron, strong, light, and modern, was the future of construction. Despite Eiffel's vision, not everyone was impressed. In fact, many Parisians were outraged by the design. Artists, writers, and architects signed petitions against the tower. They called it a monstrous piece of iron, a disgrace to Paris, and even compared it to a factory chimney. Famous author Guy de Maupassant was one of the most vocal critics. Yet, strangely enough, he often had lunch at the Eiffel Tower because it was the only place in Paris, he said, where he didn't have to look at it. Gustave Eiffel, however, didn't back down. He defended the design as a triumph of modern engineering. He even funded the project partly with his own money, in exchange for the rights to operate the tower for 20 years after its construction. Construction began in January 1887. Over the next 2 years, more than 300 workers assembled over 18,000 iron parts, connected by 2.5 million rivets. Despite the scale of the project, there were surprisingly few accidents, a result of careful planning and safety measures. The tower was built in sections. At each stage, critics watched and waited for failure, but never came. Piece by piece, the tower rose over Paris, and by March 31st, 1889, it was complete. At its opening, Eiffel climbed the 1,710 steps to the top and planted the French flag. It was an unforgettable moment. The Eiffel Tower now stood tall, watching over Paris, a new wonder of the modern world. During the 1889 World's Fair, the Eiffel Tower was a massive hit. Over 2 million people visited it, climbing to its platforms to enjoy the breathtaking views. Eiffel had added elevators, a new and exciting technology, which made the climb easier for many. But even then, the future of the tower was uncertain. The city had only approved it to stand for 20 years. Many expected it to be torn down in 1909, yet Eiffel had other plans. He believed the tower had scientific value. He allowed experiments in weather observation, physics, and even early radio transmissions. In 1903, the tower was used to send wireless telegraph messages, which proved its usefulness to the military. This helped save the tower from destruction. As the 20th century began, the Eiffel Tower slowly began to win over the hearts of the people. Tourists kept coming. New technology made it easier to visit. And most importantly, Parisians began to feel a kind of pride in the strange iron tower that once divided them. The tower also played a role in major historical events. During World War I, it helped jam German radio communications. In World War II, when Hitler visited Paris, the French famously cut the tower's elevator cables so he'd have to climb it on foot. Later, in the 1950s and 60s, the Eiffel Tower became a symbol of the modern age. Television antennas were added to the top. It began appearing in movies, advertisements, and art. By the 1980s, restoration work helped preserve the tower structure. Paint jobs were regular every 7 years, and lights were added to make it glow at night. In 2000, to mark the new millennium, the Eiffel Tower was decorated with a stunning light show that captured the world's attention. Today, the Eiffel Tower is more than just a tourist attraction. It is a global symbol of elegance, creativity, and resilience. Over 7 million people visit it every year, and it's estimated that more than 300 million people have visited since it first opened in 1889. It has become a favorite place for proposals, celebrations, and selfies. People travel from around the world to see it and to say they've stood beneath its iron legs or looked out over Paris from its top platform. The tower is also a symbol of innovation. It was built to challenge the impossible, and it succeeded. It proved that engineering could be art, and that vision and courage could change a skyline and a nation. The Eiffel Tower is 324 meters tall, including its antennas. It weighs about 10,000 tons. The color of the tower is called Eiffel Tower Brown, and it's painted in 3 shades from darker at the bottom to lighter at the top. Gustave Eiffel had a private apartment at the top of the tower, which he used for scientific experiments and receiving special guests. The Eiffel Tower was built for a temporary event, but it became a permanent part of world culture. Its story reminds us that great ideas are often criticized before they are celebrated. Gustave Eiffel and his team faced resistance, doubt, and ridicule, but they believed in something bigger. More than 130 years later, the tower still stands. It connects generations, nations, and imaginations. It teaches us about history, engineering, creativity, and the power of vision. So next time you see the Eiffel Tower, whether in real life or in a photo, remember the story behind it.